The feeling came to Emma on an ordinary Tuesday, the kind of day that should have passed without meaning. The coffee was still warm on the counter, the house quiet, and her husband Daniel was tying his shoes near the door. Nothing was wrong, and yet something felt off, like a song playing slightly out of tune. It wasn't jealousy. Emma knew jealousy well, and this felt different. This felt quieter, slower, more thoughtful, question forming before the answer was ready. She watched Daniel check his phone and smile at a message. He didn't hide it. He never did. That honesty was one of the reasons she loved him. Work. Stuff, he said casually, slipping the phone into his pocket. Emma nodded, but the name on the screen had already settled in her mind. Claire. Claire had been part of their lives for almost a year. She worked with Daniel at a design firm in Seattle, joined their group outings, and somehow always ended up in the same rooms. She was friendly, thoughtful, and easy to talk to, the kind of woman people trusted without trying. Emma had liked her from the start. That was what made the feeling harder to understand. At first, it showed up in small moments. The way Claire laughed at Daniel's jokes, even the ones that weren't very funny. The way she leaned in when he spoke, like she didn't want to miss a word. It wasn't obvious. Anyone else might have missed it, but Emma noticed patterns. She always had. At a friend's birthday dinner, Emma watched from across the table as Claire listened to Daniel talk about a project he cared about. Claire's eyes didn't wander. Her phone stayed face down. When Daniel finished, she smiled softly, like his success mattered to her in a personal way. Emma felt a quiet ache in her chest. She told herself to stop. People were allowed to admire each other. That didn't mean anything. Daniel was kind, intelligent, and calm. Of course, people liked him. Emma liked him too. She had chosen him for a reason. Still, the feeling stayed. Days passed, then weeks. Claire's name came up more, often in conversation. Nothing strange, nothing secret, just casual mentions. Claire said this, or Claire thinks that. Emma answered normally, but she started paying attention to how often Daniel said her name without realizing it. One evening, Emma and Daniel sat on the couch watching television. The room was dim, the kind of quiet that comes after a long day. Daniel's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, replied quickly, and put it down. Emma didn't ask who it was. She didn't need to. Later that night, as Daniel slept beside her, Emma stared at the ceiling. Her mind replayed moments she had ignored before. A look held a second too long. Smile that softened just a bit more than usual. None of it crossed a line. That was the problem. There was no clear mistake to point to, no reason to be angry, only a truth forming slowly. Claire wasn't acting careless, she was being careful. Emma sat up in bed, her heart steady but heavy. She wasn't afraid Daniel would cheat. That thought didn't fit him. What scared her was something quieter and more human. The idea that feelings could exist without permission. That attraction could grow silently, even when no one wanted it to. The next weekend, they all met again at a small gathering. Music played softly in the background, and people moved in easy conversations. Emma stood near the kitchen, watching Daniel explain something to a group. Claire stood nearby, listening, her arms folded loosely, her face open. When Daniel laughed, Claire laughed too, but then quickly looked away, like she had revealed too much. That moment landed clearly in Emma's mind. She didn't feel anger. She felt clarity. Later, as they drove home, Daniel talked about work, about deadlines, about a new idea he was excited about. Emma listened, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She wondered how long she had known, deep down, before she allowed herself to see it. At a red light, Daniel reached for her hand. The simple gesture grounded her. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," Emma said, and she meant it. She wasn't broken. She wasn't losing him. But something in their life needed attention. That night, Emma stood in the kitchen alone, washing dishes slowly. She replayed everything, searching for the right response. Ignoring it felt dishonest. Confronting Claire felt unfair. Accusing Daniel felt wrong. She realized something important then. This wasn't about blame, it was about awareness. Love, she understood, was not just about trust. It was about noticing when something fragile needed care. Kama dried her hands and took a deep breath. She didn't know exactly what she would do yet, but she knew this: pretending nothing was happening would not protect what she loved. And as she turned off the kitchen light, one clear thought stayed with her, calm and steady in the dark. This story was not about betrayal. It was about what people choose to do when emotions quietly ask to be noticed. Emma did not rush into action. She did not argue, accuse, or demand answers. Instead, she watched, not in fear, but with focus. Once the feeling had a name, she needed to understand it clearly before deciding what it meant for her life. Claire became easier to notice after that. Not because she changed, but because Emma stopped ignoring the details. Claire sent Daniel short messages during work hours. Nothing personal, nothing secret. Just light jokes, reminders, shared stress about deadlines. Daniel mentioned them openly, never hiding his phone, never lowering his voice. That honesty only made the situation more complicated. Emma told herself the truth. Daniel was not doing anything wrong, but emotional lines were not always clear. They were not marked with warnings or signs. They were crossed slowly, sometimes without anyone realizing it. At a team dinner hosted by one of Daniel's coworkers, Emma watched how Claire positioned herself. She did not sit next to Daniel. She chose a seat across from him where she could see him clearly. When others spoke, Claire listened politely. When Daniel spoke, she gave him her full attention. Her eyes stayed steady, her expressions soft. Emma felt the truth settle deeper. Later that evening, someone made a joke and Daniel laughed. Claire laughed too, then quickly looked down at her plate. It was a small reaction, almost invisible. But Emma understood it well. It was the reaction of someone trying not to reveal too much. On the drive home, Emma stayed quiet. Daniel noticed. "You're quiet tonight," he said gently. "I'm just tired," she replied. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. That night, Emma sat alone in the living room after Daniel went to bed. She thought about how easy it would be to turn this into a fight, to ask sharp questions, to demand reassurance. But she knew that fear-driven words often cause damage that could not be undone. She wanted clarity, not chaos. The next day, she met Claire for coffee. The meeting was friendly on the surface. They talked about work, the city, small things that filled time. Claire seemed relaxed, smiling easily. But Emma noticed the tension under it. The way Claire stirred her drink too often. The way she avoided direct eye contact when Daniel's name came up. Emma did not confront her. Not yet. Instead, she listened. Claire spoke about feeling stuck in life, about watching others build something meaningful while she felt unsure of her own direction. Emma heard the loneliness behind her words. It explained more than Emma expected. When they parted, Claire hugged her a little too tightly. That night, Emma finally spoke to Daniel. They sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet around them. Emma chose her words carefully. "I need to ask you something," she said. Daniel looked up, concerned but calm. "'Kay, do you think Claire might have feelings for you?" The question hung between them. Daniel didn't laugh. He didn't get defensive. He paused, thinking honestly. "I never thought about it," he said slowly. "But maybe. She's never said anything. I've never encouraged anything." "I know," Emma replied. Daniel leaned back, rubbing his hands together. "Does it bother you?" Emma took a breath. "It worries me. Not because of you, but because emotions don't always stay quiet forever." Daniel nodded. "If it makes you uncomfortable, I'll create more distance." Emma shook her head gently. I don't want you to act out of fear. I want us to act with awareness." They sat in silence, both processing the moment. There was no anger, no blame, just honesty. Over the next few days, Emma noticed Daniel being more mindful. He didn't change suddenly or dramatically. He simply stayed present. Conversations stayed professional. Boundaries remained clear, but Claire seemed unsettled. She became quieter in group settings, less relaxed, like someone holding back words they were afraid to say. Emma recognized the look. It was the look of someone fighting a feeling they did not ask for. Emma felt compassion instead of anger. One evening, while folding laundry, Emma realized something important. Avoiding the situation would not make it disappear. Silence would only allow misunderstanding to grow. If this was handled with care now, it could end without damage. She decided to do something unusual. She invited Claire over for dinner. The invitation was warm and simple. No tension in the message, no hidden meaning, just kindness. Claire hesitated before accepting. Emma could tell by the delay. When she finally agreed, Emma felt a calm certainty. This was not a trap. This was not a test. It was a choice to face the truth with respect instead of fear. As Emma set the table that night, she felt nervous, but steady. She was not inviting conflict into her home. She was inviting honesty. And she knew that once the door opened, nothing would remain unspoken for long.